Sex and autism. This video is about sex and sexual health for people who have autism or ASD. This is an explicit and sensitive topic with references to sexual behaviour throughout the video. My name's Karina Williams and I'm a sex educator with Cymru Addysg Crew Sex Education Company. So if we begin, what is sexual health? So the World Health Organization defines sexual health as a state of physical, emotional and social well-being in relation to sexuality. It is not merely the absence of disease, dysfunction or infirmity. Sexual health promotion is the process of enabling people to increase their control over their sexual health and should be based on people's needs and abilities. If you're autistic or have ASD, you may have different needs or experiences around sex and relationships. So all relationships can encounter issues, but autistic people might face particular challenges around sex and intimacy. Autism might make it difficult to communicate your sexual needs and wants with your partner or partners. Sex and relationship education might not be presented or have been presented in a way that feels relevant to you, that you understand, or that meets your preferences. You might find it hard to read social cues that other people take for granted, and you might have different thresholds around touch and stimulation to your partner. So some tips for intimacy or sex. So remember that sex should always be pleasurable for everyone involved. Take the time to get to know your own body, know what feels good for you, and then talk to your partner about what you enjoy. If you start to feel anxious or overstimulated, it's always okay to take a break or to stop. You might want to start slowly, exploring different parts of each other's bodies and different types of touch. Sex is always more enjoyable if we can tell or show our partner what we enjoy. If you already know that there's certain things that you're not going to enjoy, set some boundaries and explain them from the very beginning. Communication is key. So whether we're neurodiverse or not, talking about sex and relationships and intimacy can sometimes feel difficult. But having open conversations beforehand is going to make it much easier to have the kind of sex that you both want. Find a way that works for you and your partner or partners to talk about how you feel. So if we're having sex, there's some stuff about general safety that applies to everyone. Who are you with? Does anybody know where you are? Do you feel safe? And what can you do if you don't feel safe? Communicate your boundaries about what you do and don't want to do, and check that your sexual partner feels safe as well. In order to have safe and healthy sex, there has to be consent. Consent is always about your choice, what you want to do and what you don't, but also the other person's choice too. Being sure that both parties are fully consenting to everything you do together is absolutely essential. The absence of a no doesn't mean a yes. If you worry about reading body language or non-verbal cues, make sure that you've talked about this beforehand and that you both know how you show consent or non-consent. Nobody can legally consent to sex when they're under the influence of drink, alcohol or drugs, which is inhibiting their choice making. We can't consent to sex if we're asleep, unconscious, forced, tricked, confused or coerced into sex. Pleasure. Sex should always feel pleasurable. Sometimes we might need to make a few changes or have a little bit of extra help to experience sexual pleasure in the way that we want to, or it may be that we just want to mix things up a bit. Introducing some water-based lubricant is a really good place to start if we want to explore and experiment with different sensations. You might want to investigate using sex toys, either on your own or with a partner. You can buy sex toys from lots of different websites. The link below for the Pleasure Garden is one example of an inclusive website for sex toys. Did you know that autistic people are more likely to have a sexual fetish or kink? Fetish is a strong sexual desire for a specific object or a non-genital body part, although the use of the word has broadened to a range of objects, body parts and behaviours. Kink is defined as a behaviour which includes non-conventional sexual practices, concepts or fantasies. Kinks and or fetishes, even for things which are considered more unusual and more often than not harmless. It can be fun or exciting to explore kinks and fetishes. As always, good communication is key. Everyone involved must fully consent. Now, this means knowing beforehand exactly what is involved and everyone's boundaries being clear. Exploring kinks and fetishes should be fun, so even after good planning and communication, if it doesn't feel good, it's always okay to stop. Neurodivergent or autistic people are more likely to identify as LGBTQ or asexual. So according to some research from the University of Cambridge in 2021 that suggests that autistic individuals are less likely to identify as heterosexual and more likely to identify with a diverse range of sexual orientations than non-autistic individuals. The research found that in comparison to the general population, a higher prevalence of autistic individuals will identify as asexual and a lower percentage will engage in sexual activity. However, the research still found that the majority of autistic adults do engage in sexual activity and are less likely than the general population to identify as heterosexual. Similarly, there is some emerging evidence that gender dysphoria or being trans is more common in people with autism. It might be difficult to find the right support and information about your sexual or gender identity if you're autistic, but we will provide some useful links later in this video. This is a handful of useful links. You can click on the links on this slide or scan the QR code for some information. Undeb Bangor and Student Services are a good source of information, and they can provide you with internal and external condoms, DAMs, lube, all for free from the Student Centre in the SU and from the accessible toilet in the SU. You have a student wellbeing service in Bangor University, which is accessible by the link in this slide, and they can support you around things including sexual violence and harassment, support around mental health, and to supply information on local services. For support and information around your sexual health, for things such as STI testing, contraception, HIV services, you can visit the sexual health clinics provided by BCUHB, that's Betsy Cadwallader University Health Board, which is our local health board in North Wales. Again, you can click on this link or scan this QR code to access those services. For sexually transmitted infection testing, or for free postal condoms, or for a really good source of information on their website, you can look at the Public Health Wales website, which again accessible by the link or the QR code on this slide, and via Public Health Wales you can order the test and post kits for STIs, which will provide you with a free confidential STI screening in the comfort of your own home. This is one of a series of 9 video presentations on relationships and sexual health topics. The videos have been commissioned by Undeb Bangor and they were designed and delivered by Cwmni Addysg Crew Sex Education Company.